Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have just been caught in another massive scandal, and as a result they are desperately trying to keep a lid on it and contain the news. But it hasn't worked, and even worse, we have now discovered that terrifying leaks revealed during the height of the OGL scandal last year are actually true. Not to mention, on top of that, there has been a whole slew of fan outrage following this revelation. Just this week, I've seen stores cancelling Dungeons & Dragons, fans claiming that they've been betrayed by Hasbro, calls for boycotts from role players, people are cancelling their D&D Beyond subscriptions, and of course, there's the old familiar angry comments. Ugh. Oh god, that's a lot of angry comments. So this one, yeah, it's big. Role players have declared war on Hasbro, and the knives are out, you know, if they were ever put away in the first place since the OGL scandal started. Now, this is all blown up just this week. It's a very fresh scandal, straight out of the oven for your pleasure, because I'm on the cutting edge of RPG discourse, and so are you if you're subscribed to the channel. So, you know, please subscribe. They'll beat me if you don't. They give me a number. I don't think I can reach it. Right, okay. I'm getting back to it. Jeez. Alright, so the ingredients to this scandal stew were actually gathered together last year. Do you remember this book? Why, if it isn't our old pal, Glory Hall of the Giants. This was an adventure book for Dungeons & Dragons released late last year by Hasbro, and it was all about giants and glory holes and the adventures that you can have when both of those things are combined. I might be a little bit off here. I've never actually read the book, but I have seen inside it. Because when this book was first released, keen-eyed sleuths, read anyone not clinically blind, could tell that a bunch of art in here was an actual fact generated by AI, and images from this book got shared all across the internet and everyone pointed and laughed. And for Hasbro, this was a really bad look. See, regardless of your opinion on AI art and cyber girlfriends, I like the latter. I'll never have to endure another Dunkin' Donuts date, but it's pretty much a given that the entire RPG hobby is pretty much filled with a whole ton of field theater kids. I mean, how else do you explain the popularity of Powered by the Apocalypse? Search your heart, you know it to be true. And many within the community just simply do not agree with the use of AI in the products that they buy. Personally, I don't get it. Don't you like slop? I thought everybody liked slop. Why don't people like slop? Well, people are very vocal about not liking slop. So when Hasbro got a ton of criticism from the community for using AI art in D&D, like seriously, this spiraled out of Twitter and got into Reddit and spread across the entire RPG community like a white blood cell response against infection that has not been compromised by AIDS, and it threatened to divide the entire D&D community in a Horus Heresy 2.0, Hasbro immediately saw it as a major threat, akin to the OGL scandal, and they jumped on top of it, doing the only responsible thing that a company can do. They did a PP oil and said,
"We're sorry."
That's right, they broke the emergency glass and apologized, and then they went on to replace the art of all future iterations of Glory Hall of the Giants with fully human-made art. And importantly, they promised to never again use AI in their work, and insisted that they would maintain an anti-AI policy for time eternal, proclaiming it in an epic blood oath that would echo down through the centuries. 30 days later, they got caught using AI art again. Oops. And once again, Hasbro said,
"We're sorry."
And then they issued out a new blood oath that would echo down through the centuries about how they'd never use AI in their products again, yada yada. And then in a month or two later, they got caught using AI again. Yeah, this has happened a few times now throughout the last year, each time ending with a
"Sorry."
and an insistence that they'd do better next time, and then inevitably they'd turn out more AI generated content and the cycle would begin anew. Only the patience of creatives, fans, and Chris Cox's mom got more and more strained every single time that this would happen. But it must be said, AI is here and it's currently the hot new thing, and it keeps inexplicably showing up in D&D and WotC products, and this week the whole thing came to a head because Hasbro have just gone further than they've ever gone before. before, they've basically done the unthinkable. And as a result, the community have erupted in mutiny. And Hasbro are trying to do damage control here, but I think the really important element of all this that isn't even really getting talked about enough is that they have accidentally revealed a dark future that we had only previously heard about in leaks last year. Leaks that at the time people said was crazy, but now I think they're true. Ugh. Look who's laughing now. I mean, it's AI, obviously, because AI is here in a big way. For example, do you hate spam calls and robocallers? Ever wondered how they got your details? I mean, I know I have. Just the other day, someone signed me up to the Jackson Sun newspaper of all things, using my own personal private email address, and they even had the gall to call my own personal mobile number. I mean, how did they get this? Well, it's because they bought it. There is a secret market out there of data brokers that take your personal data, like your name, your social security, your phone number, login details, address, voice, and they take these from huge data breaches, and they even scrape it from your web searches. And then they sell this data on to businesses and criminals who use that info to put you, your family, your friends at risk. And that's why we get all those weird spam emails and receive scam phone calls from robocallers. But what's particularly terrible is that this is all about to get a whole lot worse, because AI has reached the stage where robocallers are now able to mimic the voice of family members and loved ones and communicate with us on the phone in real time, meaning that spam and scam calls are going to be impossible to detect. And these imposter scams, they rely entirely on voice data sold to them from these data broker lists, meaning that your next call from a loved one might just actually be with a Terminator. That's why I'm so happy to partner with Incogni, a service that hunts down your data online, finds out who the hell is selling it, and gets your details removed from these lists, stopping all those spam emails and robocalls right at the source. And they work continually, feeding back to you all the details about the requests that they've sent, which have been successful, which are still in progress, and they never stop working. They continually ensure your privacy, stopping your data being handed over to scammers and businesses, and you get to see it all happen in real time. And of course, enjoy a world where you don't get spam robocallers every single day. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use the code Dungeons and Discourse at the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. That's Dungeons and Discourse to get a massive saving. Click the link in the description of this video, and thanks to Incogni for sponsoring this video today. But unlike those RoboMasters using the voice of your dead relatives to sell you car insurance, Hasbro at least have been previously able to keep the community slightly calm by claiming that all those previous AI controversies have been by accident honest, and that they have not broken their policy to no longer use AI content. That is, of course, until just this week, because Hasbro just straight up broke their AI policy. Their one rule. Brrr. For real this time. And the community have responded to this by taking up arms and storming the Bastille, because there was just no way to claim that this one was a little accident, because, I mean, they just got straight up caught hiring an AI engineer, like an employee whose job it is to do AI. Turns out there's a job posting from earlier in the year, but just discovered this week, where Hasbro are looking for an AI engineer for their games. You can see it here. It states that the potential employee will explore new uses of AI for game development, drive the strategic roadmap for AI integrations in Hasbro game products, and that the employee needs to have knowledge of generative content and content generation, and of course, the ethical ramifications of using AI. Guys, I think Hasbro might be planning to use AI. And honestly, the D&D community have been, not impressed by this job posting. The reactions online were overwhelmingly negative. WotC was trending on Twitter. There were thousands upon thousands of comments demanding the head of Chris Cox over this, and even calls of boycotts, similar to what happened during the OGL scandal. This totally inflamed the community with a mixture of incredulity, shock, and disappointment. My three favorite emotions. And many creatives especially felt extremely betrayed by Hasbro Wizards, and they have expressed a deep sadness and anger about this move. And even stores have declared that they're no longer supplying D&D, presumably to instead stock fetal or something? Maybe GURPS. Who am I kidding? It's obviously going to be Pathfinder. So, as a result of this outrage, Hasbro jumped on top of this story very fucking quickly because the whole thing has the potential to be another OGL scandal and they really don't need that right now. Not with a new game just on the way. Gotta say though, their response was very odd because they did respond pretty much immediately, but all they said was this, quote, "Our stance on AI hasn't changed. This job description is for a role for future video game projects. You can reference our AI FAQ here." And this is just a really fucking weird response from Hasbro, right? Because it doesn't actually address any of the issues that the community have had with the use of AI, or the fact that Hasbro are clearly adopting AI into their company and wider processes. And even more, this response has accidentally revealed their real position on AI work rather than, their AI policy. They just don't care. I mean, come on. If Hasbro executives really thought that it was wrong to use AI in D&D and Magic the Gathering like they claim they do, for all those ethical reasons that they claim they follow, why would it suddenly be okay to use in video games? Why would it suddenly be okay to use in other processes? Why is it just wrong in Wizards of the Coast's products? And the answer is, it's not. They're being extremely inconsistent here. They just don't want to piss off the D&D community. And that means that the moment they think that they can get away with it, we're going to see AI in D&D and Magic the Gathering. And that then brings us straight to the leaks last year. Remember those? Because I sure do. They were terrifying. And I think they might actually be true now. See, last year it was leaked that Hasbro were planning on using AI Dungeon Masters in their upcoming D&D virtual tabletop platform that's coming out either next year or the end of this year. And as a result, they were planning on gradually dumbing down Dungeons & Dragons systems to accommodate those AI DMs. Now, at the time, I pretty much scoffed at it. But then, it also got leaked that Hasbro are working with Explored, an Italian AI company who are working to implement AI into their games. And then, on top of that, we now have Hasbro directly hiring AI engineers for an unnamed virtual game project. All of this is coming together like an insane jigsaw puzzle that you have to solve with your granny. And she hits your hand with a cane every time you get a piece wrong. I'm sorry, Gran. It's clear to me now that Hasbro obviously want AI in Wizards of the Coast products. I don't know about you, but personally I can't wait to find out what the dungeon equivalent of Will Smith eating spaghetti is. Probably something to do with a gnome and an aubergine. But wait, they can't do this, right? Because Wizards of the Coast have an explicit policy not to use AI content in D&D and Magic the Gathering. They've signed it. It's their policy. That's the AI policy FAQ that Hasbro even referenced in their response to this scandal. And so, if Wizards of the Coast ever do anything with AI, they're going to be breaking that policy, right? Well spotted, rules lawyers. But that's where this all gets a lot worse, because I have just made an extremely chilling discovery about that AI FAQ, and I have to admit, this genuinely shocked me, because Hasbro Wizards have been very devious with this one. In their AI policy FAQ, they have employed an extremely cunning rhetorical trick, a backdoor, a bit of legalese, a technicality as we like to call it in clown law. Let me know if you spot it. Here's what they say in their AI policy document. Quote, "The core of our policy is this. Magic and D&D have been built on the innovation, ingenuity, and hard work of talented people who sculpt these beautiful, creative games. As such, we require artists, writers, and creatives contributing to the Magic TCG and the D&D TTRPG to refrain from using AI generative tools to create final Magic or D&D products." Did you spot it? Did you spot their rhetorical trick? Their policy is for their artists and workers to not use AI in the final product, not simply in the process of making the product, just not to deploy AI generative content in the finished piece. In other words, this policy gives Hasbro Wizards carte blanche to use AI in their work at multiple levels. An artist could trace over completely AI drawn images and present that in the final book and say that they have complied with this policy. You know, if you just ignore all the robots. This policy is nothing. It's simply a smokescreen, a facade, paper armor, a way for them to weasel out of their commitments down the line if they need to. This isn't even a commitment. They've even gone so far as to layer this with another sentence saying, quote, "Generative AI is a constantly evolving space, and this FAQ will be revised on an ongoing basis to reflect what we are learning alongside everyone else." Or In other words, they can update this policy at a later stage, especially if they want to start using AI generated content openly in their products. This AI policy is a joke. It doesn't mean anything. It's words, and words are wind. Hasbro Wizard can do whatever they want under this. Well, I think this was the first time that I've used my legal ability to spot slight legalese technicalities hidden in plain sights outside of pure clown law. I think it was, but probably not the last. Why not check out my Patreon if you're impressed? my mom never was, so it would make a change. And then take all of that and combine it with the words of Chris Cox, the CEO of Hasbro, who said very recently, quote, "AI is cutting edge technology. D&D has 50 years of content that we can mine. Literally thousands of adventures. Magic the Gathering has more than 15,000 cards. AI can bring our characters to life. We can build tools that aid in content creation for users or create really interesting gamified scenarios around them." That was him talking, by the way. That's straight from him. Look, this is coming. We're just at the beginning of all this. I have no doubt that once the new D&D books are out in a year or so, we're probably going to see the beginning of AI start to make its way into D&D and Magic the Gathering, just like those leaks suggested. Perhaps even with dumbed down content, just like Chris Cox wants. And the only thing that can stop it is if every single time AI shows up, the community get as annoyed and as unified against it as they did this week. I mean, this outrage has a purpose. It's the only thing keeping Hasbro, well, not honest, but you know, in line, as they would probably say to their employees. So if you want to find out what happens on the next part of this terrifying roller coaster of emotion, because you know who wouldn't, then please join my Patreon and give me your money, because without it, I can't do this channel, and also, you might die. In return, you'll get ad-free videos, bonus videos, live streams directly with me, a free game, and access to a really cool gaming community. So check it out at patreon.com/discoursminiatures, and a massive thanks to my patrons, especially CryptoKev. Bigfoot is out there, and I'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye.